All right, my clock says 9:01. I think we should get going and be inspired today. I pushed the record button, so we should be good to go with that. But I want to welcome everybody to the Q's virtual conference. With everything that's happened in the last few months, it's not the type of conference which we had planned on first of the year, or even January, February, even March. But here we are, and with the technology, it's great that we're able to have get-togethers like this. Now, a couple things, just some housekeeping things, even though you're at your own house. But if you want participation today, you need to register on Midas and complete the form. That will give you the USB-E credit that is found on SCED. Also, for getting into the sessions right on SCED, also, there's two ways to get into the sessions. You can click on the bottom of the session description. It says access the session from this link. Clicking on that will take you to the live feed of each session. You found that because you are here, hopefully, on SCED. There is a new thing that SCED has put together, a video stream button. I haven't utilized that myself. I don't know how that works, how well that works, but feel free to try that way to access the sessions also. If there are any passwords related to the meeting spaces, they should be included in the session description also. And that should be everything there. When you're joining the sessions, the live sessions, make sure that you are just muting yourself, mute your mic, and feel free if you have questions or comments to unmute or to type in the chat. And we love to see your smiling faces throughout the day. So if you want to keep your cameras off, that's great. We encourage you to do that if you feel so inclined. For today, to make this virtual conference as personal as possible, we have a couple things set up in place. We have a hashtag QsVirtual. Please use that on your favorite social media site for any shout outs or anything else you'd like to share with any from learning moments or comments from people. Use that hashtag QsVirtual. There is also a Padlet set up. Clicking on the link found in SCED or going to the short URL bit.ly/virtualQs will take you to the Padlet. And on this Padlet, if you click on the little plus sign underneath the session, and then you can add your comments, your thoughts, you can include photos, you can do anything that way on that Padlet board. Utilize the chats that are available in the meeting spaces. Those are great ways to communicate with one another and to ask questions. And again, cameras are great. I don't know if you've seen the study or not, but the pajama pants purchasing has gone way up since the quarantine started a couple months ago. So probably all have them on right now, and that is just fine. A couple feedback things we want you to do. There is session-specific feedback. It's from SCED, little smiley faces. Then you can put some comments on there. That'd be great. And then at the end of the conference, at the bottom of SCED, there is a feedback survey, just overall how the conference went, how we can improve. So if we have to do things like this again, we know how we can make it better for you for being here. The sessions are being recorded. We will send out the links to all the recordings as soon as we have them available. Hopefully in a day or two, we'll have all the recordings available and you'll have access to come back and watch all of these whenever you feel you need to. Hopefully there's not too many technical issues. If you have scheduled, put a session on your SCED, made it a session for yourself, then you'll be available to receive emails. If you need to send out a new WebEx link or anything that way, it'll be straight through SCED. They'll send those messages to you. But hopefully we don't have any issues today. A couple last things. Hopefully you have your necessities on hand. We're not able to provide these ourselves. So here's your virtual Diet Coke and chocolate for those of you who have this as a staple for your existence. And with that, let's jump in with Mike Roberts. A little bit about Mike. He taught middle school English for the past over 2 decades. He received numerous awards for his outstanding teaching, including being named the 2014 Utah English Teacher of the Year and the NCTS's Outstanding Middle Level Educator in 2009. He has written a couple of books. His most recent one, Chasing Greatness, 26.2 Ways Teaching is Like Running a Marathon. He breaks down the many similarities between the classroom and the road. In the process, he shares advice from some of the best teachers and runners from across the country as a way to help you reach your highest potential. He's also the author of Hacking Classroom Management, 10 Ideas to Help You Become the Type of Teacher That They Make Movies About, which identifies a variety of strategies that empower students in the learning process. Finally, he's the co-author of the New Science Teacher's Handbook, What You Didn't Learn from Student Teaching, and he was a featured columnist in the English Journal. In addition to middle school duties, he teaches college classes focused on classroom management and literacy and content areas. He has served on many educational committees and has been a featured speaker at dozens of state, regional, and national conferences. And today he is our keynote speaker at the CUES Virtual Conference. When he's not teaching or presenting, he is usually found running ultra marathons in the mountains. And after all these years, he is still not sure which takes more energy, a week with 8th graders or running a 100-mile race. So with that, we are going to turn the time over to Mike.
All right, welcome everybody. First, big shout out to everybody who organized this. I think this is super cool. I know the original plan was to do something live at Ursa, and that didn't work out. So big shout out to everybody who was able to rally and put this program together today. I am going to be sharing my content with you here in 1 second. So hit that, hit that. And then let's go into presenter mode. That way we can blow this whole thing up here. Boom. All right. So this session is called, rewind a little bit, 10 teacher traits that superheroes emulate.
I can hear him.
Oh, you can't see me now? Hold on. Well, then that didn't work. Can you see me now?
I can
Leave your board.
hear him.
Okay, hold on. Let's see where we are. So hang on.
Yeah, you can hear him and you can see him. You're in the right spot.
Okay.
All right, give me 1 second.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a shot.
All right, let me back.
It says it goes till 10:10, but my first session's at 10 o'clock.
Just tell it to schedule out. It'll still all play just fine.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Let me back.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Todd?
Hold on. Let's mute all if possible, Brandon.
If you'd like to make a call.
Okay.
We got mute all?
We got him now. Yeah, I was trying to find where that was. I found the button finally, so we're good.
All right, you can see me?
Yep, I can see you and I can hear you.
All right. So hold on. Now I got to go to share screen a little bit and hope we don't lose everything. So give me 1 second because that's where it seemed like we lost you. Share that. All right, we should be good.
Looks good.
All right, sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what happened there. We got invaded for a couple seconds. All right, well, my name is Mike Roberts. Like I was saying, a little bit about me. This is called 10 traits or 10 teacher traits that superheroes emulate. All right, so who is this guy? Good question. Let me blow this up at least a little bit. If I can't go to full screen mode, let me try this. Let's see what happens. Not any better, is it? Let's escape that. All right. So who is this guy? Okay, I want to be clear that I am a middle school teacher. Currently, I'm a middle school teacher. I do teach some college classes. Brandon went over some of that other stuff that I do. One thing of note is this is going to be my last year at my current school, and I'm going to go be a instructional coach starting next year. I'll still be in the classroom, but I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on helping other teachers improve themselves in the classroom. The one thing I really want to focus on here is right down there. Hold on 1 second. me 1 second here because my computer is, there we go. We'll stick with this. Right down here at the bottom, I have chaperoned 61 middle school dances. Let that soak in, my friends. 61 middle school dances over the years. What does this mean? This means I've listened to some terrible music. This means I have seen some really strange dancing. And most important of all, this means that I probably permanently smell like Axe body spray at this point in my life. But 61, that's one of my crowning achievements as a middle school teacher. So what can you expect from this presentation? Hold on, I am going to try this one more time. Brandon, will you yell at me if I lose you? Because this is going to drive me crazy. So we're going to go to present mode. It should be good. There we go. All right.
So have you.
Okay, good. That's what I was hoping. All right. So what can you expect from this presentation? Look, you're going to get psyched about and motivated about teaching. I think that's a big part of teaching, is having that mojo every single day. So I'm going to help hopefully build that up in you. I'm going to help you uncover some of your hidden superpowers. All right, you do have them. I'm just going to help point them out a little bit to you. And last, you're going to get a chance to win one of 2 books. So what you won't be doing, though, we're not going to discuss any education theory or research or anything like that. Number 2, I promise you, you are not going to have to share with a neighbor at any point. I'm not going to break you up into breakout groups. I have actually left presentations where we had to do this. It's just not really my thing. I know we make our students do it, but so for none of that stuff, and you're not going to have any homework at the end of this, I promise. All right. So throughout this whole pandemic, I think we've all heard everybody talking about, ooh, our teachers are superheroes, and our teachers do this, and our teachers, and I get it. I love it. I love the recognition. I think people are starting to really pay attention to all the hard work we do all the time. But I think it's a little bit backward. To me, teachers aren't superheroes. Superheroes are like teachers. And this is what this whole presentation is about. I'm going to go through and I'm going to list the 10 traits, or I'm going to list traits, and then show you how those traits relate to superheroes. So how it works. All right, you do need a pen and paper and or typing on your computer available if you want to be eligible to win the books, because there is going to be some math involved in this, and you keeping track of things and all that kind of stuff. So here's how it works. I'm going to give you a teacher trait. Okay, here's a trait of a great teacher. And then I'm going to give you 3 descriptions that align with that trait. Each of these descriptions is given a point value. So you're going to keep track of how many points you get per trait. And then at the end, after each one, I'm going to say, and this is the superhero you are most like. I'm also going to give you 2 traits that don't go along with this. And that's where you can lose points. So you technically can lose points on this. You could be a negative at some point. But you're going to keep track of each one separately. So you'll have number 1, and then the subject and who it is, and then your point total. It all will work out in the end, I promise. Each trait gets that point value. At the end, you're going to add up your point value, and the one that is the highest, that is the superhero you are most like. And 2 people, like I said, will win a copy of the book. Now, before we get going on any of this stuff, number 1, I am not a superhero geek. So please don't come at me with your Marvel and DC and this doesn't fit this character. I am a complete, moron when it comes to this kind of stuff. There is no science behind any of this stuff. This is just me coming up with stuff in my own brain. So please don't come after me if I incorrectly describe your favorite superhero. It's all from the bottom of my heart. And if I left your superhero out, good night. I apologize. They definitely deserve to be on this list. I'm just not smart enough to put them on. That said, teachers are innovative. We are creators. We are looking for new ways to improve things. We are looking to add different things to our curriculum. We don't settle for the way things always were. We're looking for how do we make things better. We're not satisfied with what we have. We want to look for what can we do next. So innovative teachers, you get 3 points on this one if you've implemented some new technology into your teaching this year. It can be any technology, okay? I'm talking this entire year when we're in classrooms, when we're doing online stuff. If you implemented some new technology, boom, 3 points for you right off the bat, okay? 2 points if you created a new unit specifically for your online learning. So you know you're online, you have to change things up a little bit. You created a new unit specifically for your online learning. That's 2 points. And 1 point for seeking out help when you were having problems. When I first started teaching, I looked at asking for help as a weakness. And now that I've been at this for about 20 years, I look at asking for help showing strength, showing that I want to get better, but I need help to do it. So there's no shame in saying I need help in doing something. So if you've had to ask for help, which I think a lot of us probably have this year, you get that 1 point. Now, when you are scoring these things, don't just assume you did that. I need you, when you're thinking, this is all on the honor system here, which we'll talk about a little more, but I need you to, when you're thinking of this, be like, yes, I specifically remember examples of these, just to keep it fair for everybody. Because I think all of us assume we do all this stuff, but I really want you to dial it in and say, these are the things I did. So right there, you can pick up 6 points for being an innovator. Now you lose a point if you only handed out worksheets during online learning. I'm not saying worksheets don't have a place. I'm saying if that's all you did, that's not good enough. You need to be finding a way. I don't care if they're kindergarten through 12th grade, whether it's simply getting on a Zoom call with them, whether it's checking in with them about their learning. If you just did here's the worksheet, see you in next year, take a point off. And number 2, and this one's hard, you lose 2 points if you complain about online learning. Look, sometimes you get dealt a hand that you just got to kind of bluff your way through. And that's what, for a lot of us, this is. And it doesn't help by complaining about it. What helps is being innovative and looking at how can I do my best at this and how can I improve as a teacher to make this worthwhile. So right there, you have the potential of being 6 points, or you lose a couple points. Ooh, I'm going to adapt this. We're going to do this right now. This is one of the things that's coming up, is being adaptive. If you think you know the superhero I am talking about, write it down right now on your piece of paper somewhere. You will get a bonus point if you get the superhero correct. And we'll do this after each one, in fact. Ooh, I like this idea. I'm adding to it. So, who is a superhero who is innovative? It is, of course, Iron Man. And I dig this quote from Iron Man. Sometimes you got to run before you walk. And I think this 100% applies to where we are with our online learning. 2 days is what we had to prepare all this. Man, we didn't have a chance to really learn this system. We just jumped right on in. And those of you who took full advantage of it and put your best into it, shout out to you all. You are an innovator. Iron Man would be proud. 2, teachers are perseverant. Okay, we struggle through, we know that the growth as a teacher comes from not having difficult times thrust at us, but coming through those difficult times and learning from it. I think a lot of times people like to avoid problems as a way to make their life easier. For me, your life becomes easier when you've had difficult things thrown at you and you learn how to manage it. You develop those skills to improve. And that's what perseverant teachers do. So, this one, some of you are going to go like super negative. It's all right. This just might not be you. You get 3 points for dressing for your online classes like you would for your on-campus classes. This doesn't necessarily mean you're wearing the exact same things, but it does mean you're putting in a little effort there for your classes. You are setting that standard. Number 2, you get 2 points for reaching out to students or parents who were struggling with online learning. You didn't let this online learning thing slow you down, and you weren't going to allow it to slow your students down. And this is what perseverant teachers do. They overcome, they fight through, they find ways to make those connections. And that's what 2 points will get you here. If you reached out to a student or a parent, you call them, maybe it's a colleague, throwing a colleague in there as well. And you kind of help them through figuring out how do we get on Canvas, or how do we connect Zoom, and where do I find the homework? Taking that little extra to persevere through the tough times. And you get 1 point simply for making it through class every day without crying. whoo, this is online, this is in class. There are some days where, man, you just got to make it to the end of the day. And getting to that last bell is persevering as much as you possibly could. Shout out to you, 1 point for that. So again, there's 6 points potentially you could have for being perseverant. Now would be a good time to be guessing, write down your guess as to which superhero I think is perseverant. You lose a point, and here's where some of you, you're going to go like 100 points negative. For every time you wore pajamas to class, I heard Brandon joking about it. I hear you. I get it. Look, you got to persevere. You got to keep your eye on the prize, man. So some of you are just wiped out on that alone, and you're like negative 50 at this point. And then you lose 2 points for every time you were late to class. All right. And this, again, ties back into, we don't do this in our regular class. The same should be holding true for our online classes. So if you were late a couple times, 2 points off for each time you were late. So this one could be, if you're very particular in time managing and all that stuff, this one's going to be a great one for you. If you struggle with that a little bit, this one's going to be a little rough. So who is perseverant? That would be Wolverine. Sorry, it took me a second. Wolverine. I love this quote by Wolverine. The pain lets you know you're still alive. This is what teaching's all about. Teaching isn't about doing the same thing over and over again. Teaching is about learning alongside your students. Teaching is about struggling through a unit and coming out better as a result. Teaching is about, getting a kid who you butted heads with and working with them and working with them and working with them and being frustrated and then having that breakthrough. Teaching is supposed to be hard. Okay, anyone who told you different is a liar. So don't get frustrated by the challenges. Persevere through them and become a better teacher as a result. Next, we have teachers are adaptive. And again, we can stick to going online here. But even when you're not online, an example, I changed the rules to this little game we're doing before we started because I thought this is a way to improve things. Teachers are constantly looking for better ways. You may have a good way, but what if there's a better way? And I think that's where complacency falls in. I think it was JFK said, conformity is the enemy of growth. And that definitely holds true with teaching. If you're still teaching the same way you taught 20 years ago, using the same methods 20 years ago, you're behind and you're doing your students a disservice. These are not those same students. When I was cleaning out my room last week, because I'm switching districts, when I was cleaning it out, I'm pulling out all this stuff, and I had overhead projector sheets with like notes on it and stuff like that. A lot has changed in my 20 years of teaching. I no longer use overheads. I no longer have a VCR cart that I bring into my room. And the technology has changed, but so should your teaching. And good teachers are adaptive. So you get 3 points for changing a lesson or a unit at some point this year to fit the needs of your students. You saw something wasn't working, or you tried it last year and you're like, I'm going to try it this year based on, look, your gig, you should be working for the students, doing what's best for the students. So 3 points for that one. You get 2 points for seeking out some PD this year to help you improve in areas of weakness. Shout out to y'all for even being here today. I'm still in class. I'm like skipping out on one of my classes here to present this. We're still teaching this week. So those of you who are out of school and are already jumping into some PD a week after, hey, huge shout out, 2 points for you. And you get 1 point for maintaining a solution first mentality when faced with a problem. The easiest thing to do is to complain and to quit. The hard thing to do is to take it in and think, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? So there's your 6 points you can earn on this one. Be thinking about who is adaptive out of all the superheroes out there. Who do we think is very good at adapting to new things? So you'll get a bonus point if you get that guess correctly. You lose a point for having a my way or the highway mentality. And again, it took me years to figure this out. One size does not fit all when it comes to education. And you got to be making sure you are looking at new ways to reach all your students. You're differentiating, you're personalizing, you're giving them opportunities to come up with their own ideas that are still hitting the standards you want them to hit. The my way or the highway approach doesn't really fit today's classroom anymore. And lose 2 points for sticking to the plan during online learning. What I mean by this is when you went to online learning, you just kept plugging away saying, well, this is what we were going to do in class, so this is what we're going to do online. And again, you have to be willing to adapt to the changes that get thrown your way. You get some curveballs and you got to be willing to adjust, or else you're going to be swinging and missing on a lot of stuff. And so the sticking to the plan model isn't really the best fit. Again, it goes back to kind of number 3 up there, or the 3 point that you earned. You are adjusting to fit not only your students, but the situation. So sticking to the plan, sometimes it would work, but not all the time. So who is adaptive? This is Mystique. I love this quote. Who am I? That, my dear, is an excellent question, though not one that is easily answered. You should be constantly evolving as a teacher. And I'm not saying there can't be those tried and true books that you teach, or those lessons, or those units. I am saying try to tweak those every now and then. Try a different approach. Try taking something you did in one unit and applying it to another unit and see if it works better there than the first place. But you've got to constantly be changing what you're doing. It's good for you. It will help you from burning out. And it's good for your students in that it's going to challenge them to look at things in a wide variety of ways. Next, teachers are flexible. Okay, man, we get stuff thrown at us and you got to dodge and move and wiggle and all that kind of stuff. So you get 3 points for understanding that the well-being of your students is more important than any test score. Okay? That's huge. You teach kids, and there's an old saying out there: good teachers love their content and know their students. Great teachers love their students and know their content. Okay, so you teach, so you got to look at this and how am I going to help this kid improve? And you don't look at it and say, look, you failed. You look at it and say, look, you're getting better. There's a great TED Talk online, Rita Pearson, Every Kid Deserves a Champion. And she talks about this, how this kid took a spelling test and missed 18 out of 20. And she put +2 on top of his paper. And the kid said, is that an F? And she said, yeah. And she said, but man, +2, you got work to do. -18 sucks the life out of you. So you're finding ways to build those kids up even when they're struggling. You get 2 points for creating lessons that are differentiated and personalized for your students. We touched base on this one a little bit earlier. You're looking for ways that allows them to play into their strengths and allows them to show you what they know based on how they want to show it, rather than here's a test, that's it. The more choice you can give them, the better. One thing I've implemented over the last few years is anytime we have a project, I list out usually 6 or 7 project options they could do to show me that learning. And one of those options is always do something that impresses me, that hits the standards. And that allows students to come up with their own view and their own spin on here's how I can show you what I know. And some of my presentations that I've had students present to me have been based on this, where they took their own idea and ran with it, and they come up with such cooler stuff than we can even think of as adults. You get 1 point running after having 2 days to prepare for online learning. Okay. Ooh, can someone mute real fast? Thank you. 2 days is not long to prepare and plan for online learning. And from what I understand, a lot of us out there took it like a champ and off we went. We didn't complain, we didn't gripe. We said we're going to make the best of this, and off we went. So you get 1 point for being flexible. Now would be a good chance to guess who is a superhero who is flexible. You lose points, however, for putting content over student needs. And I get it. We have content to learn and to cover, and I'm not saying content isn't important. I am saying you won't be able to get that content through to that student unless you have reached that student first. You gotta find ways, especially it's even harder when you're online doing distance learning. You gotta find ways to help them out, to connect with them in a way where you look at them as people first, student second. And I always tell my students, I hope you look at me as a person first and a teacher second. Because it's when you have those person-to-person connections, that's when the educational and the curriculum stuff can all come in there. And then you lose 2 points for using a one-size-fits-all approach to teaching. We already talked about that a little bit. Look, you got to be mixing it up. So again, 6 points if you're killing it. And then you can lose a couple points there if you're struggling a little bit. Who is flexible? It is, of course, Elastigirl from The Incredibles. I was going to put Stretch Armstrong, but I don't think Stretch Armstrong is a superhero. I think Stretch Armstrong is a toy. So Elastigirl, definitely. And I love this quote. You have more power than you realize. And don't worry, if the time comes, you'll know what to do. It's in your blood. That is a teacher right there. It's in your blood to know, how do I help kids? How do I get through this tough time? How do I improve on things? You just know how to do it. And if you don't know, going back to something earlier, you adjust, you ask, you seek help. You don't just say, I don't know how to do this. So Elastigirl for that one. Next, teachers are optimistic and trusting. All right. I have a saying that I use when I give presentations like these. I encourage teachers to take this saying and remember it. Trust them till you bust them. I think with our students, a lot of times we jump to that worst case scenario. So we're not going to let you sit by your friends in groups and work with your friends because, oh, you might screw up. And we're not going to let you go to the bathroom whenever you want because, oh, you'll never be back. And we're not going to let students self-assess because, oh, they'll inflate their grades. We're not going to let them grade their own tests because, oh, they'll cheat. The reality is, if you were to sit down and go through all your students, very few of your students, I think, would try to do that, especially if you've created that relationship with them. You got to trust them. You have to trust that they're going to do what's right. And you have to model this trust. And you have to say, when we grade a test in my class, we grade it and hand it out, and then they grade their own. And when we're handing it out, I say, what's the first rule of taking this test? And my class knows. They repeat back to me. They say, don't cheat. And I say, why don't you cheat? And they say, because it makes me a filthy individual. And then I say, why else don't you cheat? And they say, because it's only 8th grade, and this grade, it's not worth our integrity to cheat. And then I say, finally, why else do you not cheat? And they say, because you will haunt us in our dreams, Mr. Roberts. They know that the expectation is, I am trusting them to not break that trust. Now, does it happen every now and then? Yes, it does. And so you deal with that individually. And so you have that kid cheat, you talk to him individually. You have that group that can't work together, you talk to them individually. But don't punish the entire class for a few knuckleheads. So you get 3 points for giving students a second or a third or a fourth chance sometime this year. Kid screwed up, you let them try it again. Kid failed something, you let them do a retake. Okay? You gotta give kids those opportunities. You get 2 points for letting students, if you let the students self-assess themselves at some point this year. And again, I know a lot of you are going to that place where you're like, oh, all my students just give themselves full credit. Try it. And this is when we don't know, we assume. If you try it, what I think you'll see, what I have found over the past 6 or 7 years of doing this, most kids, like honestly, 80% of the kids nail it. And they say, yeah, this is kind of B work, because I could have done this better, or I should have tried that. 80% of your students are going to nail pretty much what you're thinking. 15% of your students, I'd even go like 17%, are going to be too hard on themselves. So the opposite of what you think, they're going to say, oh, I didn't do very well on this. I'm giving myself a C because blah, 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 blah. And you're going to look at it and say, no, this is like B work here. And then, so you'll build them up. Yes, there are those 3% that sometimes inflate and think, well, I did it, so it's perfect. And so those are the kids you have to talk to and help them figure out, okay, well, let's really look at this. What was I asking you to do and how did you do it? And talking them through that. So 2 points if you let your kids self-assess. Huge shout out for you all. And you get 1 point for setting high but attainable expectations for yourself and your students. I think a lot of us are good at setting these high expectations for our students and helping them. But then we set these high expectations for ourselves, and we either don't push ourselves to reach it, or we think we have to be perfect, and we're never going to get there. Set those high goals that are challenging, that make you refocus and make you reach, but don't make it impossible to get there. So there's 6 points. Who do you think, superhero wise, is optimistic and trusting? And I know this part of the game is like super hard. So if you can pick up a point doing this, bonus to you. You can lose 1 point for not allowing retakes and rewrites and not allowing students a second chance to improve on the learning. Now, I know some of you are like, but I'm teaching them about the real world and there's no redos in the real world. People fail the driving test. Oh, they give you the answers. You learn, you retake it, hopefully you pass. 25% of lawyers out there fail the bar exam, and yet they get another chance. Anybody fail the praxis? You're still a teacher because you were given another chance. And that's what you need to do for your students. I know it's hard. I know it's a little extra work. Have them do the rewrite or the retake and then self-assess how they improved it. And that way, when you're coming up with the grade, it's the grade that we came up with, not the grade that you gave them as the almighty, power hungry, I have the grades. No, there's something you want them to be involved in. To me, a good lesson, a good unit contains the 3 E's. It's empowering to your students, and that's what self-assessment is. It's engaging to your students where they're involved in it, and they're moving and they're active, and it's exciting. It relates to them. The 3 E's are a huge part of teaching. Please try to implement them as often as you can. And then you lose 2 points if you have held a grudge against the student at any point this year. I know this sounds silly, but I have found myself sometimes, and I'm not saying sometimes 10 years ago or 20 years ago, sometimes this year, where I'm grading a kid's paper who I know this kid is screwed around all the time in class, and this kid has not been paying attention. This kid is driving me nuts, but this paper's pretty good. And nothing would make me feel better than be like, I'm going to show you this is what you get for not listening in class. You got to remove all that stuff. So who do we think is optimistic and trusting? It is my main man, Professor X. Professor X, I love this quote. Just because someone stumbles or loses their way, let me try that again. Just because someone stumbles and loses their path doesn't mean they're lost forever. That kid who pushes you and who, just butts heads and butts heads and butts heads, you gotta keep trying. You gotta give them a new chance, a fresh start every day. That student who hasn't turned in any work, anything, man, you can fight against it, or you can try to get the best out of them and talk to them. Maybe it's the assignment. Maybe that's kind of on you a little bit. What could you do to help that student be more engaged? So just because they're lost currently and they've stumbled a little bit doesn't mean they're gone forever. Professor X for that one. Next, teachers are super observant. This is one of the best superpowers lots and lots of teachers have. You get 3 points for being able to silence a room without saying a word. So you walk in, maybe it's a look. Maybe you bust out Quiet Coyote. Maybe you have some little sign. If you can silence that room without saying a word, 3 points for you. I can't do this. I struggle with this one. For me, if it's loud, I yell over them. I really struggle with this one. So this is one I've been working on a lot, but I'm just not good with silence. I always try to make sure, just not good with it. So 3 points for you all who are good at that. You get 2 points for being able to get the truth out of the toughest kid in school. That kid who lies and cheats and steals and says mean things. When you have that one-on-one conversation and talk to them, and you're able to get the truth out of them, it's a great teacher skill, and it's a great talent almost, where you get, again, you're talking as people, not as I'm the teacher, you're the student. Try to do that as often as you can. And you get 1 point for being able to hear a swear word in the hall from your room. Bonus point if you are able to name that student. Happened to me right before the pandemic broke out. I'm sitting there in my classroom. I hear this kid out there talking, says something. I yell out, Jackson pokes his head and he's like, sorry, Mr. Roberts. I said, what do you know? He goes, I know that I need to do better. We've established that here are the expectations. And again, I think too often when things happen like that, well, I'll save this one for later. So your bonus point for being able to hear a swear word in the hall. You lose the point for talking smack about a student to colleagues. And I'm not saying, hey, I'm having a tough time with this kid. I'm talking, making it a little more personal than it needs to be. So minus a point for that. Never cool to talk smack about colleagues to other colleagues, principals, or whoever. And you lose 2 points for overlooking the good things you see every day. As teachers, we're quick to point out, don't do this, don't do that, stop that, no, you can't. Do you point out the good stuff? Do you say thank you? Do you show appreciation? Do you notice that kid throwing something away in the hall that he found on the ground? Do you see that kid working with that new student to make them feel welcome? You got to recognize that stuff too. You got to put stuff in the bank, those good comments, because you're going to need to make a withdrawal every now and then. And the more good stuff you have in the bank, those withdrawals don't hurt as much. All right, so who do we think is super observant? It is the Black Panther. Black Panther, and I didn't know this, so I had to look some of this stuff up. And again, don't attack me because I'm not an expert on this stuff. He has the ability to sense fear. Come on, that is a teacher talent right there. And he can tell when people are lying, apparently. Again, goes back to that teacher talent. But again, I think good teachers, we know the truth. More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we are one single tribe. And this goes back to the pandemic here and schools shutting down in times of crisis. Did you build barriers or did you build bridges? All right, next. We have teachers are energy vectors. Yo, you control the mood that is in that class. And I know you're thinking, yeah, but it's 25 or 30 to 1. Hey, you bring that mojo, you show that you're psyched to be there, your students are going to reflect that. If you bring that, I'm grumpy, I'm having a bad day, I'm yelling at kids, your students are going to reflect that as well. So you get 3 points if you can think of a time this year where you sought out solutions rather than pointing out problems. And this is the example I was going to give just a second ago. I think a lot of times when something happens, a distraction happens in class, a kid says something inappropriate, a kid isn't doing their homework, whatever, we kick them out of class. We yell at them. We give them a bad grade. That is trying to find a solution for the immediate problem. What you should be doing is finding a solution for the cause of the problem. This is like taking allergy pills. Allergy pills, you're taking it to solve it temporarily. Going and get an allergy test is trying to solve it permanently. So rather than kicking that kid out or giving them a detention or just yelling at them, have a conversation. Hey, how are we going to make this better? And again, it's empowering them in the process. Hey, let me tell you what I saw here. Give me your version of this real fast. Okay, and then at the end, come up with a solution. Okay, what are we going to do to improve this so this doesn't happen again? Because I can't have you like yelling out the F word in the middle of class. So what can we do here to make sure that doesn't happen? And you're working on it together. Okay, I like that plan. If it does happen again, what do you think is a fair reaction for me to have or a fair consequence for you to have if that happens again? So by the end of that conversation, you've addressed the issue, you've come up with a solution to the issue, and you've come up with a consequence if they fail to live up to that solution. So seek out solutions rather than pointing out those problems. You get 2 points for offering up praise more often than blame. Again, every time a student says something, you should be like, thank you very much. Every single time a kid does something, point it out in a positive. You get 1 point for understanding that your attitude and your behavior is a model for the class. We talked about that a little bit more. So there's 6 points. Think of who is a big old energy vector. Write it down now. Who is this superhero to you? You lose a point for not coming to class prepared every day. Man, if you have those few minutes at the end of class, I do another presentation on this. But if you have those few minutes at the end of class and you just say, oh, just talk quietly, and then things go crazy in your class. If you teach 7th graders, 10 minutes of talking quietly is Lord of the Flies, man. It is nuts. And then you get mad at your students because they are acting inappropriately. You should be getting mad at yourself. And this is where sometimes as teachers, it's hard to say, no, that's my bad. I caused that. I allowed that. Every minute of your class should have a purpose. And if you don't, those transitions, you need to have a transition and a purpose with those between every single activity, or else things fall apart. So minus a point if you weren't coming to class prepared every day, and minus 2 points for publicly arguing with the student. I'm not even going to explain this one. They're kids. They're supposed to push back. You're an adult. You're supposed to know better. All right, so who is an energy vector? It is, of course, Captain Marvel. And I love this quote. And again, this goes back to being a teacher and fighting against arguing with students and parents and administrators. Look, man, it's not about fighting wars. It's about ending them. It's about finding a solution. How are we going to come to a conclusion that it's not about winning. Hey, I got to what I wanted. It's about finding a solution. And sometimes you gotta not get what you want and trust that it's for the best. So Captain Marvel on that one. Next, teachers are extremely loyal. You get 3 points for having a student first mentality when creating lessons and decision making. You should think what is best for the kid, not what is most convenient for me. And I think a lot of times we get that adult first. What's in it for me versus what's in it for the kid. You get 2 points for attending after school student events. These can be sporting events. These can be a band concert. These can be the school play. That means a whole bunch to kids when they look out and see their teachers out there. And if they know you're putting in a little something extra for them, they're going to put in a little something for extra for you in class. The more you can support them out of class, the more they're going to support you in class. And you get 1 point for volunteering to help students, teachers, colleagues, and parents before being asked. If you see someone struggling, ask them if they need help. I always tell my students when we're breaking up into groups, if you see someone who doesn't have a group, ask them. I said it's always easier to be asked to go to the party than to have to ask, can I go to the party? So always volunteer before being asked to volunteer. All right, think of who is an extremely loyal superhero. Write that one down. You lose a point if you did not send positive notes, emails, phone calls, whatever, on a regular basis. This is so easy, and this goes back to putting the money in the bank. Every time you call and say, hey, I saw your kid do this, I'm super proud. Every time you send an email that said, man, your kid killed it on this test, I'm super proud of them. That stuff adds up with kids and with parents. So I always say, and I always encourage others as well, 2 per day. At the end of school, it makes you feel good. It makes your students and the family feel good. End of the day, you had that rough day. Think about 2 positive. Send 2 quick emails home. Make 2 quick calls home. It takes like 5 minutes, and it makes you feel better, and it makes the kids feel better. And you lose 2 points for not attending any student events. I get it. We all have lives. There's lots going on. It's ridiculous to say you can make it to every event, especially as you start getting into high school. There's like an event every single day. It's even more ridiculous to me, though, to say you couldn't make it to any of those events. You don't have 20 extra minutes to go support 15 of your students at a football game. You don't have to stay for the whole thing. Make a quick cameo, wave, shake some hands, and out you go. But then the next day you can say, hey, I was at the play yesterday. I saw the first half. You were great. How'd you do the second half? It shows you care. And that's what students really need, especially now. They need a teacher who cares about them. So write down who you think is extremely loyal. I cannot think of anyone who's more loyal than Captain America. And he said, I promise you, if you need me, I'll be there. And that's what great teachers do. They are there. It's not, if you need me, I'll be there if I can squeeze it into my schedule. If you need me, I'll be there, except on that day, because that doesn't really work for me. And again, there are circumstances where you really can't be there. But for the most part, I think you can on a lot of these things. You just got to be willing to do it. Next, I need a drink. Teachers are courageous. You get 3 points for trying to connect with every student every day. And I know some of you are like, dude, I teach middle school, I teach high school, and I have 180 students. You expect me to connect with them every single day? Yes, the dude does think that. And I'm I'm not saying you have these 5-minute conversations with each one. I'm saying you're at the door when they walk in and you're greeting them and saying, welcome to class. And I'm saying you're at the door when they leave, saying, nice job in class today, and giving a couple shout outs. Those little things. I'm saying as you walk down the hall to go to the bathroom, say hi, make a fist, give a fist bump if we're allowed to do that anymore. Pay a compliment to 10 kids as you walk down the hall. You can do it. You've just got to be willing to do it. You get 2 points for having those difficult conversations with parents and students. Again, I think it's easier to deny that things are really that bad or to push those off. 2 points if you've done that at some point this year. And you get 1 point for being authentic in your teaching approach. Ooh, typo, in your teaching approach, not a you teaching approach. I actually give extra credit to my students if they find typos on things I do. So my students would have loved that one. Be authentic to who you are. If you're not funny and loud and energetic, then don't try to be funny, loud, and energetic. And if you're not really into, reading, graphic novels, then don't read graphic novels. And if you're not into hip hop music, then don't pretend to be in hip hop music. Be authentic to who you are. Students will dig that. They'll appreciate that. They'll figure out who you are, and they want to know who you are. Not I'm a pretend version of someone else. So think of who is courageous. You lose a point for only showing students your teacher side. Show them who you are. Talk about your friends. Talk about your family. Talk about events that you go to. All that good stuff. It lets them know you are human. And you lose 2 points for not adjusting what you teach to fit your students. I think too often we try to say, here's our content, and now I'll try to make it cool by adding in some stuff. Hey, flip that. Find out what your students think is cool already. They're already bought into that. Then add your content to that. You'll trick them into learning and they won't even know what's going on. It's beautiful. It's awesome. Try it. So who is courageous? Write it down real fast if you haven't already. This is, of course, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman fights for those who cannot fight for themselves. It's courageous that you take on the challenge for some students who can't take that challenge on themselves. It's courageous that you try to help those parents who don't really know where to turn to for help. Great teachers do that. Last one here. Teachers are quick-witted. Hey, you get 3 points if you reference at some point this year some pop culture and implement some pop culture into your class. Whether it's TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, you showed a cool YouTube video, you played some music, you watched a snippet of a movie or an entire movie, you talked about a TV show. Connect with your students. You got to stay up to date on this kind of stuff. Okay? And you think, I don't have to stay up to date with that kind of stuff. But you're trying to get your students interested in what you are interested in. You need to reciprocate that by showing that you care about what they're interested in. So 3 points for that. You get 2 points for adding a little humor into your teaching. I'm not saying you're giving a little stand-up routine and doing a shtick and all that stuff, but you're laughing. You're enjoying what you're doing. And you get 1 point, there you go, for laughing multiple times per class period. And you get a bonus point on this one if you can remember having your cheeks hurt after class from smiling so much. At the end of the day, you're like, oh, what is going on here? Your face starts to hurt because you're smiling so much. It's a great thing. You lose a point for getting mad at a student for being funny. It's okay to admit that students are funny. Now, if it's inappropriate, that's a different thing. But if a kid's just telling a little joke, cracking wise a little bit, it's okay. And say, hey, good one. Let's save it, though. Good one. Hey, can we do that at the end of class, though? Work something out. And you lose 2 points if you didn't smile at least once per class every single day this year. So which superhero is quick-witted? All kinds of humor. They laugh, all that good stuff. That would, of course, be Deadpool. And I love this quote from Deadpool. And if you don't understand this quote, it goes back to the fact that maybe you're not implementing enough pop culture into your class, because if you're around in the 90s, you're going to know this is 100% true. I'm going to do to your face what Limp Bizkit did to music in the late 90s. Oh, that could be my favorite quote from this whole thing. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so what does all this mean? It means that teaching is hard. And we talked about this at the beginning. Look, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't, everybody would do it. If you're not, it should be a challenge. And again, it should be a challenge whether you're in your first year or your 20th year. And that's one of the things I really loved about this pandemic. It made some of us old fart veteran teachers really reevaluate what we are doing. And I think it's good to get punched in the face every now and then. It also means that teaching is ever changing. Okay, you got to be willing to adjust. What you did 10 years ago doesn't work. What you did 5 years ago might not work. What you did last class period might not work with this class period. You have to be able to change. And it also means that teaching is the greatest job in the world. And so it means that you have the ability to use your superpowers to improve the lives of your students each and every day. And it's not about doing that one big thing. It's about doing those 100 little things. That's what's going to make a difference. Okay? Something you say to a student, whether it's good or bad, could last for decades. That student can take it and it can stick with them. And they might tell it to a friend. And that friend, it's like the spread of coronavirus. I mean, that one thing you said could be passed down from this person to this person to this person. And then that kid might say to their kids, and their kids might say to their kids. It's a lot of pressure. You need to be willing to take that pressure and know that everything you say is valuable and important. All right, so if you liked all this stuff, I love doing PD, so here's some PD stuff. If you're interested, you can go to thebaldenglishteacher.com for all kinds of info. If you're looking for a bit more PD this summer, I'm doing something called the New Teacher Boot Camp. It's from 9 to noon. I'm offering my 50 greatest ideas from my last 21 years of teaching. I'm doing it for 25 bucks, but I'll give you $5 off since we're now internet friends. If you enter the code SLCC, you can get details at thebaldenglishteacher.com. I figure you're starting your summer with some good PD. Why not end your summer with some good PD as well? That's July 20th. Go to thebaldenglishteacher.com for details. Don't forget promo code SLCC. Now let's get to the good stuff. Which superhero best emulates you? So I want you to look at all your points, okay? And there's the breakdown. Iron Man was number 1. Wolverine, go down there. All right? Circle the one that you have the most points for, okay? Whoever has the most points. So maybe it's Iron Man right off the bat. You're like, I'm super innovative, okay? So whoever has the most points, circle that person. All right, if you have a tie, you're like, ooh, but I have 3 that have 6, or I have 2 that have 5. Then pick the one that you want to represent you. I am trusting you here, people. Trust them till you bust them. This is a good example. So you're picking one out of that list, even if you had, 3 who were your top score. And I'm not saying you had to have a 6 for your top score. If 3 is your highest score, then that's who you are, okay? Please do not get mad if you're like, I'm not like blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm a complete moron. I just made all that stuff up. There's no science at all behind it. That's what I love about this. It's all just based on my random thoughts. All right, so next. Earlier this week, I asked Jason Strait to pick two superheroes from the list. He had no idea why he was picking those superheroes, so there's no like secret, pact here between, pick these people, okay? If the superhero who best emulates you is one of the superheroes selected by Jason, you get entered into a drawing for either Hacking Classroom Management or Chasing Greatness. The big reveal. Jason picked Black Panther and Mystique. So if Black Panther is the one that you have circled, all right, they're your highest total, you're now eligible to win a class or a copy of Hacking Classroom Management. If Mystique is the one you have circled, they're your superhero equivalent, okay? Email me your name, and same thing for Hacking Classroom Management. If you have Black Panther or Hacking Classroom Management as your number 1, email me your name and your score, okay? High score wins. So if there are 8 of you who have Black Panther and you're all at a 6, okay? Or one of you is at a 6 and the other 7 are at a 5, the 6 wins, okay? If there's a tie though, and all of you are at like a 5, I will randomly select 2 winners from that group. And if there are no superhero matches, if no one emails me for Black Panther or Mystique, I'll just pick 2 of you randomly and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you all very much. I thought I had one more slide on there. There we go. If you have any questions about any of this, number 1, you can find me on the web. I am thebaldenglishteacher.com. That's where you'd go to register. I have lots of free resources on there. If you're an English teacher, I have free unit plans. I have like 15 free unit plans I give out. I have some articles on there. So the website, thebaldenglishteacher.com. If you want to email me either about the book giveaway or just anything in general, you can email me at thebaldenglishteacher@gmail.com. I'm happy to share anything that I have. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so. I am at Bald Robert. That, my friends, is my presentation. I am happy to stick around if any of you have any questions, or you can just email me. But you truly are superheroes. You are doing awesome work in your classroom. Hopefully I gave you a couple suggestions, a couple tips that are going to help you continue with improving what you do. So thank you all very much. I hope you all have a great, great summer. And I really do appreciate everything you all have done to be here today. And I'm happy to answer any questions after. Email me, whatever you need to do. But thank you all very much. And shout out to Jason and Brandon for hooking this all up, and anyone else behind the scenes that I didn't know. Have a great conference, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you being here. We'll give you a virtual applause. I'm sure you're going to hear the resounding and just echoing right there. So we appreciate that. I have
here, so thank you.
Okay. We did have a couple comments. I don't know if they get a copy of your slide deck.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So if you just send it to me, then I'll include it on SCAD.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, sorry.
Great. So thank you, Mike. Appreciate being here. If you want to stick around and talk to Mike, go ahead and do that. The other sessions should be starting right now. So go ahead and want to jump in your 10 o'clock session. Do that and enjoy your day, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Sorry, I ran a little long.